Hi, welcome to the 10th and final session of the Framer Playground course. My name is Meng and today I want to teach you about API data, how to install third-party libraries like style components, and also how to do Lottie animations and save persistent data. So right now we have an avatar, we have a name, and then we might have a location here. So instead of using static data, we can actually use API data, something that is dynamic from an API somewhere. And we're gonna actually use UINames.com. UINames provide the simplest API that you can find. And it's gonna give you the name, the surname, the gender, the region, and the photo, which is exactly what we want to use, and it's going to be randomly generated for us. Let's start with the name. And let's go ahead and create a code component called name. I'm going to delete all of this code and import star as React from React. Then I'm going to create the most basic React hooks component. So export function name parentheses curly braces. And here with React hooks, usually you're gonna use the useState to change the states in your stateful component. So the way they write it is const, and then we set up an array using square brackets, the name of the state, the function to change the state, so set state, and then is equal to react.useState. And then inside parentheses, you're gonna put the default prop. So Meng To, this is my name. So now we're gonna render the UI. We're gonna do return. We're gonna use a div, then close my div. And inside that div, I'm going to apply that state. So it's just gonna be name inside curly braces. Typically in the old-fashioned way of writing React code, you would have to write this.state.name. So React hooks makes it way shorter and easier to manage your states. So now we can preview this and you can see it's simply going to write Meng To, which is a name that is applied as the default state and applied right here. Now I want to do an API call. I'm going to write fetch parentheses and the URL. Now the URL is from UINames. I'm going to go to their API right here. The one that I'm interested is the extended one, so with this. And it's gonna give me the photo as well. So I'm gonna paste this URL right here and then press enter and get into another line, put .then, which means that we're waiting for this API call to finish before dealing with the response. So then parentheses response arrow, and now we have to convert the JSON data that we're getting. So response.json parentheses. We have to do another then, so that with that converted data we can finally use it. So response arrow curly braces, and this is where we're going to use the set state so that we can change this data. So set state parentheses response dot name. So now you see that it went from the default name to a new name after the API call. But the thing is, Framer tends to refresh their components multiple times. So one thing you can do to avoid that is to set a condition that says if name triple equal sign is equal to the default name, then run this. I'm going to put the fetch inside and save this to format. What this means is that only if we have a default name, then run this. Otherwise, if we already have a new name, then stop running again. So that's going to avoid creating so many calls at once. So now you can see that when I refresh, it's only going to change to a new name once. So that's it for the API call. It was that simple. On top of the response.name, I also get a bunch of more values. For example, I'm going to add the surname. So I'm gonna add plus response.surname. But the thing is, we want to have some space. So we can add another plus with a double quotes in the middle and add a space. You can also save, and then it's gonna add some extra space to make it look nicer. And so now we have the full name, the first name and the last name. Cool. We're definitely gonna do more stuff with the data, but first I wanna show you how to style this stuff. Let's learn how to install a third-party library. In order to do that, you're going to need to go to File and then Show the project folder. And here, you're going to need to enable the columns. And from the columns, you're gonna be able to drag and drop the container. But first, make sure that you have installed Visual Studio Code, which is the best code editor out there. And once it's installed, then I can drag and drop the container folder to Visual Studio Code. From Visual Studio Code, I can use the terminal. So this is a shortcut for the terminal. It's Control tilde, and it's going to open the terminal based on this container folder. So here I'm going to do yarn add style dash components, enter. So this is going to install the third-party library called style components into my Framer project. So now I'm gonna go back, and now I can use style components. Import style from quotes style dash components, and if it's properly installed, it's not gonna give you an error. What is cool about style components is that you can use pure CSS code for your styling. So here, instead of using a div, I'm going to create a style component. So const container is equal to style.div, because that's the type of element that I want to use. Backtick twice, and then in between I'm going to put my CSS code. So now that I have created my style component, I can apply that to my div. I can use Command D to apply it to both at the same time. So container, and now I have my container. But there's no style at the moment. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back to the layers, and I'm gonna find this specific layer, right click on it, copy CSS. Go back to my code and paste the CSS code right here, and then save. And then boom, we have our perfect style directly from the CSS code that I got from Framer. That's nice. Okay, so now I want to show you how to create an avatar component and then pass the data from this component to the avatar component using persistent data. So first, let's create the avatar component. I'm going to close this for now, delete my code, and import star as React from React. And then I'm also going to import frame from Framer. And then I'm going to create my component, export function avatar, parentheses, curly braces, set my state, const avatar set state is equal to react.useState, parentheses, and set my default state. For the default avatar, you can use any URL image that you want. So for example, we can use this one directly from UI names. So I'm going to copy this and then paste that in between double quotes. Now let's create our UI. So return the frame component. I'm going to close it right away. And I'm going to set my image to the avatar state right here. If you play, you're going to see that default avatar. One thing you can do to make this image resizable based on the canvas box, you can set the size to double quotes 100%. So like this, for your code component, depending on the size of your frame, because let's say you want an avatar that can be reused multiple places at different sizes, then this is really useful. So I'm gonna save this to format the code, and I'm going to set the border radius is equal to 14. So now what I want to do is to be able to get the avatar from the name component after the fetch. So after set state, to type local storage dot set item, and this item is going to be called photo, comma, and get the data from response that's called photo. So I'm storing this into my local storage, which is persistent data, and the item is called photo. So now that this photo is stored in the memory of the app, I can just go back to avatar and get that data. So from avatar, I'm going to use the equivalent of component did mount from traditional React. So I'm going to type react.useEffect parentheses again, because we're receiving empty props, arrow, curly braces, and then we can get our data right here. So UseEffect is like component did mount and component did update combined together. So this is a simplified version from React hooks. So from here, I'm gonna do const avatar is equal to local storage get item parentheses photo inside double quotes. And then I can just set state using that const value. And voila, it changed to the value that I stored from this API call using local storage. Isn't that amazing? We managed to store persistent data and pass that between components. Now we're gonna go back to the name and we're gonna add the region. First, I'm going to set the state for the region. So const square brackets region, comma, set region is equal to React useState parentheses, and we're gonna set by default, let's say to Montreal. Now we're gonna create our style component for region. So const region is equal to style.div double backticks, and here we're gonna put our CSS code. We're gonna go to the layers and find this layer and then copy the CSS. So I'm gonna go back and then paste that CSS with indentation. And then with this, I can just apply the region right before the end container. So open region and then close region. And inside that, we're gonna apply the region state. Since we wanna have some extra padding between the two texts, we might wanna add some padding top 8 pixel. Just normal CSS stuff. So I'm gonna save this to have really nice formatting, and then I can start using my components to replace these static layers. So I'm gonna go to the components, bring the name, bring the avatar. The avatar I'm simply gonna put right on top, and since we're using the size to 100%, it's always following the size of my frame. In this case, I'm going to set it to, let's say 64. And in fact, I can just remove the existing layer like this. And I'm gonna put it right here with a padding of 24 from the right, 24 from the top. And the name, I'm gonna put it right here. Set my container, do the same thing. 24 from the left, 24 from the top, so that it's aligned with the rest. But that reminds me that I forgot to apply the data for the region. I'm gonna go back And right after set state, I'm gonna put set region response.region. And then boom, we have the region that is dynamic as well. Then we can go back and check how it's looking. And it's looking really good. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you today is how to create Lottie animations in code by yourself. So I'm going to create a new file called Lottie File. Delete the code. I'm going to close this first, and I also need to install a library. So I'm going to go to File, Show Project Folder, and again drag that to VS Code. Let's open the terminal and yarn add react-lottie. Great. So I'm gonna go back, and here first I'm going to import React. Then I can import Lottie from react-lottie. So Lottie files are animation assets. You can actually find them on this really cool website called lottiefiles.com. And they have a really strong community with a lot of animations that you can use. So for example, we could use this one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to download the JSON file. And you need an account for that, by the way. But once you have the file, then we're gonna have to put that into a project. I'm gonna go to my project folder yet again. And in the code folder, I'm just gonna drag and drop that file. And it should appear right here. So I'm gonna use that file. I'm gonna type import star as animation data from quotes dot / and then the name of the file. Let's go back to our Finder and make this simpler. Lottie.json, and I'm gonna put Lottie.json. So now I have my file. I'm going to have to render that into a component. So export function Lottie file parentheses curly braces return, and then Lottie component, and then close that. So we have a bunch of options that we have to put. So I'm gonna put options is equal to double curly braces. The first one, I'm gonna set loop is equal to true, comma, autoplay is equal to true, and then animation data is equal to animation data. So that's it. The rest, maybe you want to set size is equal to, and this is outside of the options, by the way. So size and then quotes to 100% so that we can get our asset to the size of the frame. Now I'm gonna go to my components and then set the Lottie file. Drag and drop there, and you can see that it works great. We have a slight problem here with the text. We might want to fix that by just making the font size a little bit smaller. Maybe set it to 24. So that should be a lot better. Awesome. So let's put this animation just for fun. I'm gonna put it right here, just to show the success that we have in finishing this course. And as a final step, as a goodbye, I want to show you how to export this to the web. So I'm gonna go to File and click on Export Web Preview. And then here you can, export that to your Downloads folder. And there you go. You can double click and voila, your prototype is running inside a browser, which means that you can put this on Netlify and then share it to your friends, and it's gonna be awesome. For this crazy design that I created for this course, I even generated the web preview, and you can see that it's working. Yes, I do have a smile in my face when I see this in the browser, but you can see Everything is really nice. Click here. It has all the behaviors that I wanted, all the interactions, the animations, the different pages, the content. Yeah. Well, we had a crazy journey together. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. Please share your work, and if you have any requests, any comments, any question, just send to us. I would be happy to answer them. From here, have fun, build your dream prototype. I'll see you in the next course. Thank you so much.